name is Julie Pearson, Little Fender. Today is Thursday, October 22nd, 2015, and I'm interviewing Patsi Smith for the Cowboys in Every County interview series, sponsored by the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program at Oklahoma State University. Patsi, you were an animal science major at OSU. You've used your degree throughout your life as a rodeo person and someone who raises cattle and horses. You've combined your love of animals with a love of education and service, and you and your nephew run the Nix Foundation. I look forward to learning more about you and your OSU memories. Thank you for speaking with me. When and where were you born?
I was born in Oklahoma City, and I have a very special birthday, Christmas Day,
Oh.
1940.
Or a curse. See, I know people would consider the Christmas birthdays hard. What did your parents do for a living?
They were in the pneumatic and hydraulic supply business. They had a place on Interstate 35 and one in Tulsa on Sand Springs Road called Nix Supply.
Brothers or sisters?
I had an older brother that was killed in a drag racing accident several years before my parents passed away.
Sorry.
Awesome gentleman, though.
Yeah.
Even if he was my brother.
You're part Cherokee.
Yes, ma'am.
And I
Proud of it.
understand you have an old family cabin here in Tahlequah.
I do. It's been passed down when my great-great-grandmother, I should have gotten that corrected, came over on the Trail of Tears. Then she met a doctor that was stationed at Fort Gibson, Oklahoma, at the fort. And he was considerably older than she was. But they married. And they had several children. And, Miss Craft and, they had, which would have been my Aunt Louise and my grandmother and my Aunt Sue. And they're kind of what brought me to Tahlequah more than anything, because so much of our family history is here.
Can you describe your Oklahoma City, I guess, kind of growing up a little bit? You weren't here in Tahlequah yet, am I right?
I was here more than what you would believe.
Okay.
I was real fortunate when my dad went in the service in World War II. Then my mother had the opportunity to go be with him before he shipped out. So many of your World War II gentlemen were not coming back. So 2 old maid aunts took me to Tahlequah when I was 3 years old. And my brother went off up to our grandfather's because the 2 little old ladies didn't feel like they could handle the male side. So my aunt, awesome lady, bought me a Shetland pony, and she bought it at the sale barn, and the men stuck it in the back of a 1940 Ford, and we came home with it. And it came out, and Aunt Sue would walk all over town, said it was her way to get her exercise, and I rode the Shetland pony. And then as Mother would allow me to come all the time. In fact, my dad was stationed at Fort Smith. So therefore, they could, when he got stationed some of the time there, then this was the natural meeting place. Then my mother and dad were very kind to me, and every time there was a vacation, a state fair day, anytime I had any extra time, I came to Tahlequah. So I grew up with a lot of the Tahlequah people, as well as I grew up with the Oklahoma City people. Not that I don't have ties to Oklahoma City, because my parents' business was there, but mostly I almost identify with Tahlequah. It was always, I would live in Tahlequah.
And during those periods that you were gone, your aunt took care of your pony. I
Yes.
guess your first.
Yes,
Oh,
that was the best thing.
What a wonderful gift.
It was a wonderful gift.
Well, can you describe Tahlequah a bit then, the way you saw it? as a
It was,
young
as
child?
they say, that it's changed. It was a nice, sleepy little town. When I was in the second grade, Bill Willis, who's the former Speaker of the House of Oklahoma, moved in with his family. And I rode over my little Shetland pony and I said, "Do you have any children that can come out to play with me?" They had 5 at the time, and I hooked up with one of them, and Joyce, and I stayed in the log cabin. I have a log cabin that was built in 1833 that my family were in until the year of statehood, 1907, when they had built a new 2-story house. Still have both those homes. And so she and I and several other friends, Paula and Judy and different ones, we would stay in the log cabin at night, and Aunt Sue would come down and hook up this huge fire. It was, it was not a log, it was a log fire, but it was a freestanding fire. And if we had someplace to church or were out with other high school friends or whatever, she would always have the cabin always warm for us. And we kept our saddles and things in what was formerly the little kitchen. And it was just an ideal growing up time. When we originally started staying in it, it still had the outhouse. So the outhouse went away too. It's just awesome time here. Fortunate, we grew up when we could, as I got older and had a horse then we would climb on our horses in the afternoon and we would ride the 3 miles out to the Illinois River, and the bunch of us would go swim our horses in the river. Now then, they would be fearful of the children, something happening with the children, because they could have pulled us under, we could have gotten kicked. We were 3 miles out, there were not any phone calls, no one knew where we were, but it was an ideal life. I could spend my time, I could get back here, Aunt Sue fed us at night, we ate at the Willis's at noon, because Aunt Sue was working, and that way Aunt Callie, the elder Aunt Callie, did not have to feed us at noon, and we would go over there with which eventually became 7 children of Speaker Willis, and they treated me like one of their own, and Aunt Sue did the same thing with Joyce, and Paula and Judy, all of us that combined. So I had as much time in Tahlequah. We always attended. The seminary had a reunion, and because all of my 2 aunts and my grandmother went to the reunion for the seminary, May 7th every year, then I've always attended that.
And that was the Cherokee Female Seminary.
Yes, thank you. That is the Cherokee Female Seminary, and that was a great deal of our lives. We were proud of our Indian heritage. Aunt Sue grew up attending anything that the Cherokees had. Now, must admit, the Cherokees were poorer back then, prior to the new revolution of, as they want to say now, Native American. Aunt Sue was never ashamed of being an Indian. And she was always proud that the Redmen were the Redmen for Northeastern. So I grew up with that proud Cherokee heritage, grew up horseback, and grew up working in Oklahoma City whenever I lived in the time school that I would spend in Oklahoma City. My mother was a math teacher, and both are part of my lives.
Yeah. Were you involved in 4-H in school? Okay.
No. Got involved in livestock and everything when I first went to OSU in 1958, which was the first year that it became Oklahoma State University. It had been Oklahoma A&M prior to that. And I started off in business education because my father felt like if you had a business, there was going to be business. If you had education, Mother said I could always teach. But Aunt Sue's side of me came out. The horsey side of me came out. And I ended up over in agriculture, ended up over in animal science. The sciences were difficult for me, but I love the animal side part of it. We had junior judging, so you learned a lot. And during that time, I joined Block and Bridle, and that's well known.
The riding club?
No, Block and Bridle was not a riding club. It was an animal science club.
Oh, okay.
And I'm scared to say it. They might correct me. The block stood for the meat block, and the bridle, it's been a long time. I'm going to think it had to do with the haltering of animals. I got to show my first shorthorn. His name was Killer, and I was very happy in animal science. I lived, which no longer exists, at a place called Co-ed Apartments, which was at that time just south. Brumley's there now. At that time, the horse barn was straight across the street from us. And so therefore, that put me close to the horse barn. And the steer shed was down from that. The cattle barn was back where your OSU clinic is now. The clinic was over north of North Murray. I don't know what's there now. It was south of the home economics building, the new home economics building. There was an old home economics building across campus. It's been a while since I was at OSU. Things have changed considerably. I just became a strong cowboy, and I truly, truly was. It enhanced more my agriculture side of me, where I have horses now and cattle, raise hay. It was a side of me that really wasn't my parents', but they gave me the strong values and the work ethics and everything I needed from that side. I just leaned toward the agriculture side.
Now, you did rodeo too, though.
The rodeo, yes. The rodeo side came from the Willises. They all, after I rode over in my little Shetland pony, then that started their interest. And those girls being here all the time became Miss State Rodeo, Oklahoma, and went out and competed for. So I tagged along with them. And if I got to barrel race, it was on one of their horses because my horses weren't trained. So when I went to OSU, I could go into goat tying and only borrow a horse to get down to the goat tying. So most of mine came from the background of the Willises, and then when I got to OSU, I could do the goat tying, and of course I'd ridden a horse, so I could carry a flag, and then I somehow got kitted into, I don't know how, I only did it at the Block and Bridle rodeos. I even took some ribbing from the instructors on this one. But the Block and Bridle rodeo let me sit down on a junior bull. I did it twice.
Oh.
I will never do it again. I never did it again. It was good conversation. How about that? But then I did not do any more for several years, and I got into team roping. And because I'd ridden a horse all my life, for a while we would come over here and ride from Tahlequah to Fort Smith to their Frontier Days or whatever they call it in May. And so I had done trail riding. I've spent a lot of time in the saddle.
Right.
You know, and so I went from that then to team roping, and I only teamed rope for about 10 years, and it was later on in my life, and I did ruin a saddle. I don't have to be ashamed of that. I have a friend that told me to be positive. So I did like my team roping, but I think it's based, you know what I'm saying? Back.
Right. What led you to choose OSU as opposed to a closer college?
I guess there was never any doubt. It just,
Because
there
of the
just never
family-
was another doubt.
Because of other family members attending?
No, not really. I was the first one to go to OSU. My folks were very pleased with OSU. Mother had actually attended OCU and that other university off down there for a while. I don't know. OSU, there was never any doubt. You know, I guess the best way to explain it is I have a great nephew, and it's been 3 years ago, and he was dating a young lady that was a twin, and her boyfriend, and a fifth person. And they all went down to the other university, and they were all going there. They visited one day. The next day, all 5 of those kids went up to OSU.
Did they explain why?
It just, OSU had the better feeling. OSU, that was one of our instructions when we started, is when you walked across campus, you said howdy. And
As orientation, you mean?
as orientation, when you went up there, at that time, you took all your ACT tests and things in the summer, and you had like 3 days, 2.5 days that were up there, and then you had a 1-hour orientation class, and that was what you were supposed to do. You spoke to everybody, you smiled, and that comes easy with me. I've always kind of been a smiler. I have a friend that says that she can go someplace and speak to someone, and by the time she turns around, they're my long lost friends. I like people. I like people. And so OSU really was where that fit.
Were there a lot of other women animal science majors at
No.
the time?
No, there were not. I was one of 3, and the other 2 dropped out.
Wow.
At that time, there was 1 female for every 7 men on campus. Now, 3 of those men were married. Okay? So, but it's still, that was the percentage of women going to school. Yes, it was different for me. At that time, you could not wear jeans into the library. You had to wear dresses if you went into the library. Now, if in the winter you had a long coat and you rolled your jeans up, you could get away with it. Obviously, that's something I did. But seriously, it was more about being ladies. I went back and worked in home economics, and Dean O'Toole's, one of her instructions we're going to lead the way on campus, so therefore we'll always be ladies and wear dresses. So I've never experienced OSU except mostly in a dress, except when I could go to my agriculture classes and I could go to my labs and we would be outside. So I had the privilege, that was another neat thing as far as I was concerned. That's another thing agriculture did for me.
That freedom.
That freedom.
To wear.
That freedom. So I just think it was just always OSU.
Do you remember what the rest of the learning environment on campus was like? Maybe outside of the library or the animal science department?
Tough. I think we didn't have online things. So therefore, we had a great deal of labs. I don't say they don't still do labs now, but I hear so many of the young people around here saying that they go online and they do this, they do that. We had so many hours in our classes, and you really didn't cut classes. I was just over at the physical fitness center yesterday working out, and this young lady came up to their boss, the executive director over here, and she says, so-and-so didn't come in. I will call my professor. I'll email my professor and tell him that I have to work. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. You're here to go to school, young lady. This isn't about work. I know the fitness center just opened. I know you probably need the money, but classes were very much stressed. You didn't cut classes. They literally still took roll in classes. So, you had 10 minutes between classes, and you basically weren't late. You didn't stop to do something else. I guess I want to remember that the Y Hut was there, which is long gone now.
That's good.
And
explain about them again.
Well, I've got to explain it because my mother's twin sister was totally blind, and Ralph, and I'm going to draw a blank on her name. I want to say Thelma, but I don't know. He was totally blind, and so my aunt had dated him when he was younger, and so I would go by the Y Hut as opposed to the Union. Another thing in the past is that you would go to the library, and to take your break, you go to the 4th floor of the Student Union and dance.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun.
So it was ongoing? The dancing was ongoing?
The dancing was ongoing. It was always jukebox. Do people remember jukeboxes where you punch buttons? You danced as far as jukeboxes. And the big thing that you did outside of classes was you went to dances. Morrison used to have a wonderful dance. And I have been back up there within the last 10 years, say. And Morrison still has their dance. And a lot of little old characters, but you know what? I didn't think of them as old characters back then. So you studied hard. You had your date nights on Friday and Saturday night, period. You may have a date to go study at the library, and you got in a little bit of coke time or dance time on the 4th floor. Do they still dance on the 4th floor of the Student Union?
I think they have special events.
Oh,
but
do they?
yeah, the
Okay.
dance floor is beautiful and it's still there.
Is it?
Of course, yeah.
I will have to go up
You'll
next
have to go
time
up
I'm
and
there.
look.
I will.
Where did you live? What dorm did you live in? Or did you
I-
live off campus?
No, I started off in Stout Hall, but I didn't last a week because I pledged Delta Zeta. And I lived in the Delta Zeta house, which Delta Zeta is no longer on campus. And then I moved out to co-ed apartments. Once again, I could wear my jeans because co-ed apartments, you were in individual apartments with wonderful roommates. So I lived in co-ed apartments. And then I dropped out for a short period of time. My parents were building a new building, and I went home to be of help. Mm-hmm. And when I went back, I finished it up. It was on Knobloch. It was just south of Gallagher Hall, and right across the street from the tennis courts. At that time, I'm sure tennis courts aren't there now, but it was right across Colvin Center tennis courts, and then I was right on the corner of Knobloch. But it was only because I only had a short period of, it was get back to school and finish up. Yes, ma'am. I will say this. At that time, you could not live off campus until you were 23. And I was younger than 23 when I rented this. And I came home from class one time, and here was the note from Dean Pageant, saying, "You need to come to my office."
They had found out.
They had found out that as a student that was not of age, 23 years old, was living off campus. Wouldn't happen now, but back in the early 60s it happened.
And what was the conversation with the dean?
It was a good conversation. She was a lady. Dean Pageant was very important. She was about the sororities, but she was about all of the independents and one thing and the other. I did not stay in the Delta Zeta sorority. I probably played too hard. And so I dropped out after a year, and that's when I went to co-ed. But we discussed the fact that my parents knew, and she said she would send a letter to my parents acknowledging the fact that I was off campus and wasn't supposed to be. Just such a gracious lady. I can't really tell you. I got to continue because I had already contracted for the apartments. My parents knew it. I had been out a year, a year and a half, whatever. So therefore, it was kind of time. It was okay to kind of be on my own.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Who was one of your favorite animal science instructors?
Dr. Bob Todashek. Dr. Todashek passed away 2 years ago now. We had an awesome at the Cowboy National Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City. We had they'd already had one service for him in Stillwater, and then they all migrated to Oklahoma City, and we came from miles around. Saw a lot of my classmates. Now I was real fortunate. This great aunt that bought me my Shetland pony, she went back to riding in her later years. And she never married, but she met a gentleman, and so he got her back horseback. Okay, so one time she was down at Cedar Lake in southeastern Oklahoma, and she met Dr. Todashek, or as she referred to him, Bob. And so she had to lay out one year. She had had some surgery. And so they all signed this big, huge get well card and brought it up. And I opened it up, and because I knew so many of them, I'd ridden on the rides also. And I looked at that and I said, "That says Dr. Todashek." And she says, "Who?" And she looks at it and she says, "That's Bob." And I said, "No, ma'am, that's Dr. Todashek." And then in later years, I did a lot of trail riding with him down at Cedar Lake. Big mentor with me. Big mentor. I could probably name you all of mine. Dr. Noble, he's deceased. He was head of the sheep barn at the time. No, I wasn't into sheep. But he was my advisor. Awesome gentleman. Dr. Todashek was my junior judging teacher.
What's the most valuable thing he taught you, Dr. Todashek?
Be proud of who I was. Well, and I don't mean to say whatever I was. Be proud of who I was. The connections. That connections will always, long time, pay off for you. And I don't mean you make connections because of it, but don't lose connections. Don't just let them pass through your life and keep going. Mm-hmm. Maintain those connections. He believed in hard work. He believed in students, big time students. I remember his dedication down at the Hall of Fame, the gentleman that had taken the Bramer Bull up on the 4th floor of the Student Union in the elevator. And he attributed Dr. Tahlequah as to getting him out of that situation. Dr. Tahlequah knew his students. He taught you to know people. It was great interaction. I guess I've always been an outgoing person, but I'll have to say that if he encouraged anything besides studies and connections, it was the interaction.
That's cool. What about homecoming? Was that?
That was awesome.
So
That was awesome. Delta Zeta, the year that I was in Delta Zeta, they had orchids because they knew one of their alums had orchids shipped in from Hawaii. Our whole float was about orchids.
And what was Delta Zeta's sort of mission, or?
They were a sorority on campus, and they actually, that they helped with back then was Gallaudet College, which is a hearing college back east. And I eventually took a lot of, and you said a while ago, using my agriculture, I went from OSU and went to Texas Tech and worked in their animal science department. Now, I was on the financial side. I never taught, but I did do all the financials for the barns, all the feed, all the getting bids, everything that kept the farm management going.
And this was after you graduated?
At Texas Tech, yes. I went from Oklahoma State and started work at Texas Tech doing that. And but it was all, once again, within my agriculture, within my financial background. That's what got me the position.
So what did you do after the work at Texas Tech?
Where did I go after Texas Tech?
And you weren't having access, I suppose, to horses at that point.
I bought a horse while I was at Texas Tech. They had a veterinarian on campus. We didn't have a veterinarian school, but they had a veterinarian. So I bought my Frosty horse. I met a gentleman, was married for 38 years. I transported him back to Oklahoma, and he graduated from Oklahoma State University in veterinary medicine. So then I spent my time putting him through school, at which time I worked in the registrar's office and I worked at the College of Home Economics.
Wow.
In student services, and then in family relations and child development. Dr. Stromberg was very influential in my life. So I worked there, and since he was in veterinary medicine, then that was a natural thing for me to migrate to. And we came back. He got his degree. Then we went to Texas and set up a veterinarian practice and worked that. He was highly allergic, so we sold our practice and moved back to Tahlequah.
During the practice, then you were helping
Yes.
were helping run the
Yes.
practice too.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories about that is when you pull a calf and you're doing a C-section. If you can do the C-section standing up, it's better. Okay, so he would go in and he would put nylons on their legs, and I would stand back there and hold the nylon so he could get down inside the cow to bring this out. Now, if it's natural birth, it's different. Okay, so I'm standing there and I have my feet propped up against the chute and I'm holding on. And so one of our clients, and we were closed that day because we didn't open till 1 on Wednesdays, and one of our clients walked up and he saw me doing that and he says, "Doc, can I be of help?" And he said, "Well, you might take that nylon." So he ambles over because I'm braced, okay? And he reaches up with one hand, and that calf just, I mean, they'll suck you back in a heartbeat. Mama's not letting go easy. If it comes out as it's supposed to, it's an easy thing. But if you're doing a C-section, she hadn't given up all that umbilical cord and everything. And it just jerked him forward big. Boy, he took hold with both hands and backed up, and he thought, okay, I see. And another good story, we were out doing a C-section. This one was down, and we were losing the cow. And the farmer, the man had come in that was young, and he said, Patsy, go get a syringe and fill it with blah, 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 blah. You need to put it needs to go into the jugular. And he turned to the man who he knew had worked with cattle, and he just felt like he could do it. And he said, make sure you get it into the jugular. And the guy looked at me and he says, I can't do that. What? And so I'd seen Butch do it enough that I walked up and I thumped it, and I put the needle up in there, and he literally stopped what he was doing. He turned and he looked at me and he said, did you just give a shot? And I said, you do what you got to do. Did you not want the shot in the jugular? And he said, thank you. And he went right back to what he was doing. So yes, it was right up my alley.
Once you got back to Tahlequah, what did you do?
We were team roping at the time, and we had 400 acres outside of town, managing it, and then that was
Cattle and horses? Both?
Cattle and horses. Our horses were more for fun.
Okay.
They were our team roping horses, and 400 acres, it was easier to cover. In Cherokee County, it's a lot of trees and a lot of rock, so it was easier to cover the place and look for your cows horseback.
And you had purchased the property?
Yes, 400. We actually had purchased this before we came back. We had the opportunity and left it leased out, didn't do anything. Then when we came back, we started doing what we wanted to do. And then it was at least 30 minutes out and back. Not really, but by the time you got to the farm, got through the gate, did everything, that to go out to the 400 acres. So then, not the foundation, but another section of our area helped us buy some land here in town. So I have 170 acres in farm and cattle, and then I lease another 40 acres. So I have about 50 head of cows. I got 16 new babies no, I do not. I have 18. Another little baby was born. So, and I have about 110 acres in hay and work. That kind of is what got me tied up with 4-H and everything. When we came back, I believe in the students doing their livestock and everything. Something you'll like, and here I'm going to put it on tape, right? You can edit this out. After Butch left, then I really didn't want my name out, okay? I didn't want someone to think, oh, here's this lady that has money living here by herself. So I would go to the livestock auctions in the spring, and I wouldn't want to just designate one, and so there would be 80, and they do what's called add-ons. So I would add on a certain amount, but I wouldn't let them put my name up, so I'd put anonymous. And they make all these 4-H students and FFA students write thank yous. Then they have a big meal, and they serve all those, the local banks, Spring Hollow, which is a local feed store, all these people that support, then they thank them. And so they go up to the front, and they put their name out because they're very proud of their Spring Hollow and their Bank First and everything. And by the way, our local bank First is a graduate of OSU Ag Economics. Mark's my, anyway. So they had a sign for me, said anonymous. And all these students would write, Dear Anonymous.
Dear Anonymous. Oh, I love that. Well, tell me a little bit about the foundation. As I understand, it was started by your parents.
Yes, ma'am. To be real honest with you, my dad was a working man, and the foundation was done after him. Okay? Now, it wasn't after him. It was created in his latter years. And my nephew and I, Jimmy, were more about doing for other people. And this was going to give us an opportunity. So the attorneys set up where they set up a whole, I don't know what you call it, but there's a partnership, there's a foundation. There was my mother and daddy's, there was mine, my nephews, his children, so on and so forth. So this foundation gave us an opportunity. My dad never got into it. He was kind of in the last of his life, fighting cancer pretty hard. And so he never got the opportunity to see everything it did. Now, my mother did, and she enjoyed it. And our CPA is very active, not only in his church, but in different organizations. So he's been very helpful in our foundation. And he would go talk to Mother when she was at the retirement center. And it's made a big difference in Jimmy's and my life. It's given us opportunities. Because my mother's twin sister was totally blind, and the College of Optometry is here at NSU. Don't mean to do that to y'all. But we have done a lot with NSU, with the College of Optometry, and had bought them a machine at the time we bought it. It was only the second one in the state of Oklahoma. And my dad was about Oklahoma. Okay, he was very, very, very proud he was from Oklahoma, and he never made any bones about it. Any place he went, my brother, when he was drag racing, was known as the Smiling Okie. We're Oklahomans, and so everything that our foundation does, we do it for Oklahoma.
Well, you certainly benefited OSU as well. I understand you have a room at the new Spear Business Center that's going up, and a scholarship, an endowed scholarship for our professorship that was started in 2008.
And we have supported 4-H, but it's been more with contributions. We didn't create something. We've just donated to that on campus. Right. Once again, that's my love. The foundation has done a little with the animal science department, very little. Most of what goes to the animal science department comes from me. But without what was created, I wouldn't be able to give.
Right. And you go down there pretty often. I guess you keep in touch with the Animal Sciences program. You went down for a barn naming.
Yes.
Not too long ago.
You know, one of the most exciting times to me, we were up there 2 years ago for the Spears dedication.
Right.
Okay. Now, I have a friend here in town, and I'm going to preface this a little bit, okay? She was talking to someone, and someone said something about, now, does Patsy teach, or where would I know Patsy from? And my friend said, you either know Patsy or you don't know Patsy. Okay, so we went to this Spears deal, and there was a father and a daughter. And she wants to become the spirit rider or be on the equestrian team. Awesome. Peyton's going to be an awesome asset to OSU. But we're walking around all these new facilities, seeing, I had pictures where we're out on the ground of the football field and in the different places. And this young lady behind me says, will you tell me, and it's on the back of my hat, you need to see that. Will you tell me what Block and Bridle stands for? So I turned around and started talking to her, and I called up Kim. I can't come up with his name right now. Sorry, Kim. Out at our animal science barns, our arena out there. And I said, I have a young lady that's interested in our animal science side. Are you there? Could I bring her out? And so there was a break, and everyone went over to the business building at the time, and they did the hors d'oeuvres, and my nephew went, and his wife went, and the two kids went. Peyton and I and her father head out to the barns. We have exactly an hour. My nephew gets almost upset with me. So I go out there. She got the opportunity to talk to the coach as the equestrian team. She got to have her picture made with the spirit rider. And it, once again, I float out there and I say, hey, Kim, we need to do some recruiting here. Okay, we get back. We park. I was with them. We were in his truck. We slide through the business building to pick us up something to drink. And I meet someone. Young man standing there. It takes me about that long, okay? And so this young man, somehow my niece's name came up, Jamie. Oh, I just texted Jamie. I was at the School of Business with her, blah, 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 blah. And he said, I've even met her parents. I said, well, her parents are outside waiting on me. Oh, I'd love to see them again. Tell them hello. So we go out, and I'm still with this other father and daughter. And Jimmy's over there, and he's holding this chair because of our donation. We're in kind of a special area. And so this young man's up talking to the president of OSU at the time. And I said, oh, wait, I just met so-and-so. And Kelly and Jimmy look at me like, what? And I said, I'll go get him. And I walk over there, and as soon as he finishes with the president, I said, Jamie's parents are right over here. And so we walk back, and he reiterates, how he's glad to see him again. And he had just texted Jamie, blah, 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 blah. And so then he leaves, and I sit down, and Jimmy turns, and he looks at me, and he says, how do you know him? I said, I walked through the same area he was standing in. Does that not make sense? What can I say? What can I say?
Well, how would you summarize how attending OSU and earning your degree has impacted your life?
All the difference in the world. It's hard to cover that many years since I left OSU. It's hard to speak about the friendship that was made. Like I've talked to Ravel and Caritha, both former roommates. I talked to Caritha's niece here in town. When she came here to go to school, her mother says, you got to go see Patsi, It is the education. You can't say, oh, I was taught this. This is how it helped me in this particular incident. But you know that all the education you had was built where you are now. It's made you who you are now. Mm-hmm. It's become part of my life. It's a part of my conversation. It's something I can rely on. It's not only who I am, it's so many of the memories. And this doesn't really come out positive. I love our football team. I was there when it took 19 years for the golden toe of Charles Durkee to beat over you. Yeah, it's who I am. It fit into my lifestyle, and I fit into its lifestyle, and it's brought me a long ways.
Would you say there's a strong kind of OSU community here in Tahlequah?
I think so. There's never any doubt in their mind. Yes, I have local cable TV, and I can't even get the OSU ball games. And people I square dance with are all OSU. Their daughter went to OSU, and I'm always invited out. Everything that pertains to OSU, it's migrated me that way as far as these people are concerned. And I'm going to bring it up. I may not get this nomination, but Dr. Isabel Baker, who is former president of the Board of Regents of OSU. Okay, the very first homecoming game I met my nephew and them, she was riding in the Board of Regents car. And so as she drove by, my nephew, of course, didn't have any idea who she was, and I said, "She's from Tahlequah." And I said, "Dr. Baker." And she turned around, and I said, "Tell him you're from Tahlequah." And she says, "Patsy?" Because she knew my aunt. This Lozier family's been here a long time. And she knew Aunt Sue. And Dr. Baker's boys grew up out here in Aunt Sue's pasture. Okay? I've been invited on an educational board for the Cherokee Nation on their foundation because of my history here. Right. Aunt Sue knew the boys. Okay, Dr. Baker's son is chief of our Cherokee Nation, so we're real proud of that. And she's got 2 boys that are attorneys. And one time I needed to see one of her sons, and he just stays book solid. And so I went in and didn't ask for any favors and made an appointment. And so it took me about 30 days, 3 weeks to get in to see him. And when I went in to see him, all Dr. Baker's son talked about was my Aunt Sue. And I told him, I said, "Man, you're a hard gentleman to get in to see." And he pulled out his card and he wrote his cell phone number on the back of it, and he says, "You'll never wait again." But good folks that, yes, have attended OSU here in our Cherokee County.
What advice would you give to OSU students today, or faculty or administrators?
Well, the young freshman that's going there now, her family's all about that other university. In fact, her father just told me I wore my first orange shirt.
You made a convert.
What can I say? I'm loyal. You don't rub elbows with me and not know that OSU exists. I told her to go, as Dr. Tahlequah said, go make the friends that'll last you a lifetime. Go study hard. Take all the education they'll give you. Don't pass up any opportunities. Don't think, "Oh, I want to get out of this class." You'll be amazed at what you'll learn in the different classes. As you can, as much as the administration will mix with you, rub elbows with the administration. If they're having something, you go be at it. It's a contact that'll do you good, that'll be on your resume, that they'll get to know you. To the administration, don't forget the students are the ones who pay your bills. And yes, I know a lot comes in from outside grants and money, and everybody brings in money. I know we have the T-Boone Pickens in our life. But literally, if you don't have students, you're not going to be teaching. You're not going to be doing your research because you won't have that. Administration, don't just think of it as a place to work. Think of it as a place, and I have a very, very dear friend that I met in FRCD, in Family Relations and Child Development. They don't call that it anymore, but very loyal. She liked to go to the ball games. She neither one of her sons went to school there, but both of them know how loyal she was. It's get involved. Be a part of the university. It'll give you back so much more than you can ever give it.
What should a visitor coming to Tahlequah know or see or experience?
Well, my log cabin, of course. We're still a small town. We can still wander the streets. They do a Thursday night function where you wander the streets. They have a lot of outside that they bring in. We have what's called the Red Fern Festival. You're not going to find a Red Fern Festival. And some people may be offended by the fact that the coon dogs, the coon's up in a cage. They're not going to get to it. But they're really a part of life. There was a huge book written on the Red Fern Festival, and it's brought a lot of attention. We're a community that wants to get to know you. If I see someone going up to look at my log cabin, I'll leave my house and walk up there and welcome them and tell them about small town Tahlequah. And maybe Tahlequah doesn't want to be small town, but they are. You can reach out and know your neighbor. And you can reach out, know your neighbor. You can know your... there's a lot of families that stay in Tahlequah, even though they've gone off to get their education somewhere else.
They come back.
They come back.
You are taking a young person out riding this afternoon, as I remember.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us a little about that?
Well, it first started with Dr. Giesland, and he's my dentist, and he moved into some new quarters, and he was going through these pictures with his daughter. That's not true. That's not true. It started with the Oklahoma Children's Home. Oklahoma Methodist Children's Home. But anyway, and so he says, okay, this is Rachel and she loves horses, and so I leave his office and I know she's homeschooled, so her mother's at home, and I knock on the door and I said, I understand Rachel likes horses, you want to go riding? There was a couple, and he was OSU, Jason Charles, and he had to actually move to Tulsa so he could do more on his PhD. And his daughter wanted to ride. You know, my Aunt Sue gave me my Shetland pony, and what goes around comes around. Mm-hmm. I think it's the nicest honor I can give her would be to pass on that love of animals that she gave me. By the way, it's OSU people that are coming out this afternoon that they're bringing their granddaughter out to ride.
That's wonderful. Well, is there anything you would like to add that we didn't cover today? Anything?
No. And you can cut this out. You can turn it off. I'm flattered. I'm flattered that someone suggested me when I know there's so many other great cowboys here in town that do a lot of things. OSU Cowboys. Let's get that one straight. It's just, yes, I like doing things for OSU. Yes, I'm going to be up to the dedication of something that's going on at the dairy barn. And yes, I come back for the animal science reunion. But I didn't expect this, okay? I do a lot of things, but I didn't expect this. So I guess the answer is still no. I don't know what to say.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us today.
You're welcome. Oh, I know
And-
something we didn't get in.
Go ahead.
The lady that used to live here when I came back 22 years ago, she was the aunt to Edmund Lowe of our Edmund Lowe Library.
That's right.
So now she never went to school, but once again, you never know how the university is going to reach out and touch you, and it's.
Thank you for remembering to add that. And I think I want to get a picture of your cowboy boots too before we close. I'm just gonna may need to move the camera a bit.
I'm all cowboy from toe to top, top to toe.
Let's see. They are just beautiful. Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Patsy.